My grandfather instilled in both my uncle and myself, this was his daddy's land. And he wanted to make sure that his daddy's land was there for his daddy's offspring. This year was the first year that I wrote 39 checks to individuals for dividends from the harvesting of timber. But more importantly, we weren't into this for the money alone. We're into this for what that land represents to the family, the blood, sweat, and tears that our ancestors bestowed on that land and the legacy that they passed on to us.
Welcome to the Roots to Resilience podcast, a series highlighting the powerful stories and transformative efforts defining the past, present, and future of African American land ownership. I'm Bethany Wilkinson, your host and executive director of the Sustainable Forestry and African American Land Retention Network. At the SFLR Network, we are committed to empowering African American landowners through education, advocacy, and sustainable forestry practices that protect generational land, foster economic resilience, and honor the rich cultural heritage tied to the land. This series will take you on a journey through 8 sites across our network, uncovering the stories, challenges, and triumphs that define our mission. Today, we're diving into a story that spans generations, rooted in the soil of Southwest Arkansas. Meet Shawn Boler, a remote landowner and one of the 39 heirs of a 60-acre timberland estate, a legacy born from the vision and hard work of his great-grandparents, Ransom and Nancy Adamson, over 120 years ago.
He wanted to make sure that this is a legacy to the Adamson name and the Adamson family. And when I was asked to do that, I totally embodied that because that land contained my blood, sweat, and tears from living there for about 5 years. Not as much as my uncle or my grandfather in terms of blood and sweat and toil, but I was invested in that land personally. And in the past 2 years have been committed to set up a generational group of trust fund babies.
My conversation with Shawn embodies the very essence of SFLR's mission. His multi-generational journey underscores that land is far more than property. It's a symbol of resilience, a vessel of heritage, and a bridge to the future. Let's dive in. Well, it's good to be able to talk to you and to learn a little bit more about your story. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. My name is Shawn Boler. I am one of 39 heirs of the Ransom Adamson estate, 60 acres of timberland in southwest Arkansas and Howard County. And I
Wow.
currently act as a remote owner-operator. I live here in Torrance, California, along with about 39 heirs all across the country and internationally.
Wow. Okay. So, can you share the story of how Ransom Adamson acquired the land in 1896 and its significance to your family?
Ransom Adamson and his wife, Nancy Whitmore Adamson, acquired about 100 acres of land in southwest Arkansas in 1896. I have the actual paperwork that they signed the bill of sale. It was April 20th, 1960. And April 20th is a little special because that's my birthday. I was born April 20th. So there's a tie there. So they acquired about 100 acres in southwest Arkansas. A few of those acres got sold off. They had 13 children, and of those 13 children, 5 of those children are on title for the 60 acres, which included my grandfather. And we've recently created a family trust for the 39 heirs of those 5 descendants.
As I understand it, your family has a long-standing connection with the SFLR network and the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Can you share more details about how that relationship began and how it's evolved over the years?
We have been working with the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff Small Farms Program since about 2018. So when Ransom acquired the land, one of the heirs was my grandfather, who acted as the executor of the land up until his death in the early 1990s. He then turned it over to my uncle, who was administrator until his passing in 2015. In 2017, his wife, my aunt, asked me to make sure that we protect this land and we keep it in the family. My uncle, Norman Adamson Sr., had already started to work with the University of Arkansas in Pine Bluff back in 1993, shortly before my grandfather passed, and actually planted the 60 acres and pine trees. So when he passed in 2015, we already had a pretty substantial stand going, but there hadn't been many of the USDA practices or involvement from the SFLR programs that were established. So in 2017, 2018, I got involved with the land and working with the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff to get enrolled into a couple of the USDA programs.
I'm wondering, what were some of the first steps that you were able to take with the support of the SFLR team to help you start to address some of these land management challenges being physically removed from the place?
So one of the things I'm sort of noted, or I'll even go out on a limb and say famous at the Small Farms program at University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, is my saying. When I went to them, I went fully with the phrase, I don't know what I don't know. And that's what I told them. And they came back with a outline of best practices to move forward. And one of those practices was to develop a plan, not what's called a forest management plan, but just a family plan on what the family targets and goals are for the plan. And I went through great lengths working with many of the family members, trying to outline just what did we want to do. That's why we chose timber versus row crops or livestock, is because we were scattered throughout.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you say at the time, I don't know what I don't know, what did you mean by that?
So, what I meant by that is I'm coming into this asking for help. I need guidance. My professional training is one of internet retailing in general. So, if I was trying to import 40,000 containers of auto parts from China, I know how to do that very effectively. But to harvest and to maintain 60 acres of loblolly pine, I have no idea really what to do other than plant a tree and when they grow, cut it down. But there's a lot more involved with that. And I want them to know, them being the Small Farms program and the SFLR team, that I need help. And I'm not coming into this with any preconceived notions or ideas. I want to implement best practices land.
What I appreciate so much about that posture and mindset is that I know that that's the case for a lot of landowners. They don't know what they don't know. And that lack of not having that information can lead to either making no decisions or maybe making not the best decisions or choosing to sell the land because we don't know what we don't know. And so I think it's really incredible that you had the foresight, the humility to say, hello, I need help.
Yeah, that's important. And I guess humility is one of my strong suits. I believe in collaboration. I've always believed that if I get a consensus of a group and as much data as I can make informed and proper decisions. And that's just been a hallmark of my business acumen over the years. I want to get as much information from the professionals, the experts, and then I can make that hard decision one way or the other. But just to go out and say, hey, I got 60 acres. I'm going to plant trees and everything's going to be hunky dory. No, there's got to be more involved than that.
So true. And then to do it in collaboration with all of the other heirs remotely is its own hurdle relationally.
Definitely.
So, how would you describe the value of SFLR's community workshops and education programs at University of Arkansas Pine Bluff?
Priceless. Simple one word, priceless. I can't tell you how many hours since 2017 when I personally got involved with them, at least once or twice a week. I'm on a webinar just listening, trying to understand what value can be added to the land by the dissemination of education and experiences from other landowners, from the professionals, from those out there that have the resources, from those out there that have the expertise. It's been invaluable.
Mm.
And as a result, I've shifted and volunteered my experiences and my time to those webinars, working with a few other landowners, where we try to give that landowner empowerment and peer group arena for us to share those things that we really think we need and to extract more information and share it across.
Yeah, I find that those peer to peer landowner opportunities are so critical because people can't always become what they can't see. And so to have someone like yourself say, here's what we did, here's what it looks like, here's the pain points we've lived through, there's nothing that beats that than hearing it from another landowner.
Oh, wholeheartedly, Bethany. When you're looking for consensus, when you're looking for collaboration, you need those touch points. You need those pioneers that have been through it. As a kid growing up, our parents would say, young boy, I've been there, I've done this. You need to listen to me. Well, that's the same thing with landowners that have experienced it in peer-to-peer situations.
Mm-hmm. So, what would you say to families who are struggling to maintain their connection to the land they've inherited?
Whatever you do, don't let go of that connection. I've shared this story before, and I think I know why it hit home to me. I was just watching The Piano Lesson on Netflix. August Wilson is one of my most favorite authors for a lot of his screenplays. And there's a scene in there where he talks about holding the earth or grabbing the earth and that connection that's made. When I saw it this past week, it hit me because as a kid living in Chicago, my dad, we owned a house on a corner in Chicago, and my job as a kid, I had to cut the grass. One weekend, I wanted to go out that Saturday with my friends to the mall. My dad was like, you got to cut the grass before you go. And I was like, come on, Dad, I want to go hang out. We're going to the movies. He says, go cut the grass. And I was giving him griff. And he says, go outside, grab a piece of that dirt and bring it back in here. I looked at my dad like he was crazy. So I go outside, I grab a handful of dirt and grass, I bring it back in the house. And he says, open your hand. I open my hand. He says, look at that. He says, that's yours. That's yours. You have to take care of that. So when you talk about connection to land, I think that's what you have to do. You have to know that that's yours. You have that land. You have that ownership. You have that title. Hold it as something solid. Hold it as something sacred. Understand how you can make it sustainable and self-sufficient ongoing, because it will pay dividends to you. It will give your generations to come a legacy to build on. That's how valuable I see that connection to the land being.
Yeah, that's so good. So, SFLR's mission is to build generational legacy through forestry and conservation. Can you share any stories of recent timber harvests that you've done?
Sure. My grandfather instilled in both my uncle and myself, this was his daddy's land. And he wanted to make sure that his daddy's land was there for his daddy's offspring. My uncle took that same posture. He wanted to make sure that this was a legacy to the Adamson name and the Adamson family. And when I was asked to do that, I totally embodied that, because that land contained my blood, sweat, and tears from living there for about 5 years. not as much as my uncle or my grandfather in terms of years and blood and sweat and toil, but I was invested in that land personally. And I, in the past 2 years, have been committed to set up a generational group of what a trust fund babies. I want to see 30 or 40 years from now individuals with the same blood DNA running through my veins getting checks. And the only reason they're getting checks is because they've got that same DNA. This year was the first year that I wrote 39 checks to individuals for dividends from the harvesting of timber. It's really special to me that I was able to do that. But more importantly, we weren't into this for the money alone. We're into this for what that land represents to the family, the blood, sweat, and tears that our ancestors bestowed on that land and the legacy that they passed on to us. I mean, there's the adage of we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. And I don't think I'm going too far out on a limb to say that Ransom Adamson would definitely have his wildest dream. 120 some odd years ago, you had told him, hey, you're going to have over 30 heirs, nearly 40 heirs getting paid from what you did back in 1896. He probably would have laughed at you and said, that's the craziest thing anybody would say. That story is near and dear to me. Hopefully, generations from now, 40, 50 years from now, someone will be having the same sort of experience as a result of.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Being able to
Thank
write
you.
those checks. And it's so incredible. It's just incredible to me from the outside. So I'd love to hear from you. What does it feel like to be able to pay those dividends to your family and to see the land's impact in real time?
Well, I've spoken to a couple of my cousins when the checks came, and the reaction from them has been everything from, are you kidding me? Is this an internet scam? And I'm like, no, this is reality. Some of them being humbled by that and thanking me. And it's really, I'm thanking them for believing in me and believing in the mission of SFLR of how we can create this generational wealth. I mean, don't thank me. I'm humbled that I could do this. And some of them taking the funds and donating them back to community organizations, which to me, those were the cousins that I really took note of and said, wow, you got to take this money and give it to the church or the cemetery association or the fire department. I'm like, wow.
Wow.
So that's the beautiful part. And then having them now set up their beneficiaries for their shares so that we don't set up the same problem that the 5 years had. So that's the new journey that I'm on, that I'm going to be looking to SFLR is because, again, God willing and the creek don't rise. Hopefully I'll be around for a little while, but I'm not going to be around forever. And getting that engagement from the next generation to take over and setting up the framework where this automatically goes on autopilot is really what I'm going to be looking and asking you in your new role to help give that strategy and roadmap on how we move forward.
So, how do you envision the land being used in the next 20 to 50 years? How are you thinking about that? More timber harvesting, or do you have other ideas?
I definitely have multiple ideas. When I first came to SFLR, one of the things that they said was develop a program, set family goals. And we set out developing a roadmap that had revenue swim lanes of where we'd like to see revenue coming from the tech industry, be it cell phone towers, things of that sort, be it marketing, because part of the land is on a highway. So whether it's billboards or things of that sort, agro-tourism has popped up. We're already taking advantage of carbon capture, but there may be more of that. In Arkansas, the whole mineral thing has blown up or seems to be blowing up around lithium. So, there may be other mineral opportunities for revenue. So definitely diverse revenue streams are something we want to approach going forward. And that's why it's important to have the trustees and the family come to consensus on targets, because we don't know what we don't know about marketing, technology, mineral rights. That's why having a SFLR corporate trustee that could say, you know what, we know how to do revenue income from minerals, marketing, technology, and have that body say, this is a program that might fit for you guys and we can implement it. So that's how I'd like to see that work out.
So, what are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned from this journey?
Valuable lessons that I've learned from this journey would be to trust the experts, humble yourself and ask for help, be willing to put in the work. They're not just going to have everything wrapped up in a little bow and give it to you. You have to do the work. You have to fill out the forms. You have to do the research. You have to work with your family. You have to have a roadmap.
Yeah, that's so good. So much good insight there. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your stories with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Bethany. I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
That's all for this episode with Shawn Boler. From preserving his family's 60-acre timberland to overcoming the complexities of heirs property, Shawn's experience showcases the power of collaboration, education, and visionary leadership in preserving a legacy. As we reflect on his story, let it inspire us to honor our past while building a sustainable and inclusive future. Land ties us to our history, and through stewardship and unity, it can become a bedrock for generations to come. Thank you for joining us for this conversation with Shawn Boler. Until next time, this is Roots to Resilience. Roots to Resilience is a sustainable forestry and African American land retention network podcast. Our senior producer is Ivana Tucker. Our engineers are Asia Simpson and Jacob Winnick. Our executive producers are Melise Toussaint and Eliza Smith. This podcast was produced in collaboration with Cascade Advisory and Cosmic Standard. For more information about our work at SFLR Network, check us out at sflrnetwork.org and be sure to sign up for our email newsletter. Special thanks to our network sites and to the American Forest Foundation for supporting the podcast. This material is also based upon work supported by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Any opinions, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this publication are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of the U.S. Department of Agriculture or of our other sponsors. In addition, any reference to specific brands or types of products or services does not constitute or imply an endorsement for those products or services. I'm your host, Bethany Wilkinson, signing out.